planning to visit Sweden for the first time, here are some basic and important Swedish words and phrases that will make your life easier in Sweden. Let's start with some common words and phrases we use for greetings, such as God morgon, hej, tja. We will soon talk more about them in detail. Knowing these are very useful if you enter a Swedish bakery to buy a kanelbulle, for example. Swedes will probably say this to you. And if you say it to them, it will be considered to be very polite. The first common greeting is God morgon, useful in the mornings, since it means good morning. Even though it sounds a bit like good moron. It doesn't mean that, but maybe it helps you to remember this phrase. God morgon. And as you might see, it's written very differently from how it's pronounced. We drop the D in god and we drop the G in morgon. So it becomes god morgon. However, the most classic way of greeting in Swedish is just with a simple hej. And you can say this any time of the day to anyone you want. And a lot of Swedes like to use it twice. Hej hej. It doesn't change the meaning, but you will perhaps sound extra Swedish. Hej hej! Then we of course have more ways to say hi in Swedish, such as tja. If you want to know more about this topic, then you can check out this video we made about it. But as a tourist coming to Sweden for the first time, then it's good enough to just know hej and god morgon. Let's move on to our next category of important and basic phrases in Swedish. How to express politeness in Swedish. How to say thank you, please, excuse me, and these kind of things. The Swedish word for thank you is tack. A good way to remember this is to think about the tic-tac candy. Just that you skip the tick and you add a K to the tack, because we love K in Swedish. Tack with K. Tack is a word you just need to learn in order to survive in Sweden. We say this a lot, and apart from meaning thank you, we also use it as the English equivalent of please. For example, when you want to order something, like a cinnamon bun, something very typical here in Sweden. En kanelbulle, tack. A cinnamon bun, please. Even though we actually really say a cinnamon bun thank you in Swedish. We kind of use tack where you would use please. A conversation between you and a Swede using tack can sound something like this. Hej, jag tar en kanelbulle tack. Visst, här kommer den. Tack. As you can see in the first sentence, we kind of use tack as please, and in the second one it just means thank you. So learn tack. And if you want to say thank you very much, then just add så mycket. Tack så mycket. And if you want to say you're welcome as a response to the tack, then you would say varsågod. Varsågod. The RS combination in the word varsågod makes the sh sound, especially in Stockholm. That's why we say varsågod and not varsågod. Another useful word to express politeness is ursäkta. Also here we make the sh sound because we have a RS combination. So again, you say ursäkta and not ursäkta. No, ursäkta. Ursäkta can have different meanings depending on the intonation and situation. But in general, it's our way to say excuse me. Very useful when you want to have a Swede's attention to ask them something. Like in this dialogue. Ursäkta, var ligger Vasamuseet någonstans? Där borta. Tack. But be aware, sometimes ursäkta can be used with a little passive-aggressive undertone, especially if you add mig after. Ursäkta mig, you can for example hear ursäkta mig during rush hour because a Swede is a bit annoyed because you're blocking their way, especially if they have said ursäkta in a nicer way before. Ursäkta, and then you don't listen, then you will say again ursäkta mig. That's very Swedish. But in general, if you just say ursäkta or even ursäkta mig, but in a sweet and kind tone, then it just means excuse me. And while we're on it, if you bump into someone in Sweden and you want to say sorry, then you can say either ursäkta or förlåt. Here, both can be used as sorry. Förlåt is also a common word for sorry, especially if you have done something bad before. Förlåt. Next category, order in Swedish. If you travel to Sweden, you need to eat. So know how to order or buy something is crucial. You can order in many different ways in Swedish, but some common and polite ways are jag skulle vilja ha, and then you add the thing you want, and also add a tack if you want to sound extra polite. For example, jag skulle vilja ha en lax, tack. This can be translated to I would like to have a salmon, please. And you can also say jag vill ha en lax, tack, which is more like I want to have a salmon, please. Another easier way that is also very common is just to say jag tar. For example, Jag tar en lax, tack. The literal translation to this would be I take a salmon please, but maybe in English it's more like I will have a salmon please. Very useful if the waiter is waiting for you to take the orders. And if you want to ask for something else, like a napkin for example, then you can say skulle jag kunna få, and then the thing you want, like in this dialogue. Skulle jag kunna få en servett tack? Absolut, här, tack. Varsågod. Sometimes we use the expression varsågod as a way to say here you have, so you can use it instead of här, like we said in the previous dialogue. Skulle jag kunna få en servett, tack? Absolut. Varsågod. Tack. Varsågod. Moving on. Next category. Asking for directions. There are also different ways to say this, but two very common ones are vad ligger and vad finns. For example, var ligger närmaste tunnelbanan? Or var finns det en mataffär nära? Var is used when you ask for precisions, like in this case. But it's quite common to hear the word vart, especially in spoken Swedish. Even though some say that it's not grammatically correct, but it's still used a lot, so get used to hearing it. Especially in spoken Swedish. So you might hear this for example. Vart ligger närmaste tunnelbanan? Vid Östermalmstorg. Or vart finns det en mataffär nära? Där borta. If you want to learn more Swedish grammar, vocabulary, and become fluent in Swedish one day, then you should join our Swedish courses. For those who doesn't know how it works, we have different types of courses. Live online courses, if you want to have Swedish lessons with a teacher, a specific day and time. Online video courses that are pre-recorded lessons that you can take whenever you want, whatever you are. And finally, we also have Swedish courses for companies. If your company wants to provide Swedish lessons for you and your colleagues at work. Here's all the information if you want to join any of our courses. Let's move on to our next category, shopping. Now that the Swedish crown is extra cheap, then you might want to do some shopping while you're visiting Sweden. And some useful phrases you will need are vad kostar and hur mycket kostar. Two common ways to ask how much something costs. For example, vad kostar jackan? Or hur mycket kostar jackan? 670 kronor. Sweden is a very cash-free society. Cash is not king here. In some places, they don't even accept cash. So if you want to pay with cash in Sweden, then you might need this phrase. Kan jag betala med kontanter? Let's use all these phrases we learn about shopping in a dialogue. Ursäkta, vad kostar jackan? 670 kronor. Okej, kan jag betala med kontanter? Nej. Endast kort. Then we have come to our next category, some surviving phrases. Jag förstår inte. If they start talking Swedish to you and you don't understand what they're saying. You can also say, jag pratar bara engelska. I only speak English. Or whatever language you only speak. But if you say this phrase in perfect Swedish, they might not believe you. Then you can say, jag pratar bara pyttelite svenska instead. And this is how we say, I only speak a little bit of Swedish. More surviving phrases. Jag är hungrig. I'm hungry. Jag är törstig. I'm thirsty. Får jag låna toaletten, tack? May I borrow the toilet, please? And yes, you heard right. We don't use toilets here. We borrow them. Jag fryser. I'm cold. Very useful when it's minus 30 degrees Celsius here. Jag har ont. How we say I have pain, even though ont really means evil. I have evil. For example, jag har ont i fötterna. I have evil in my feet. In other words, how we say I have pain in my feet. Useful if you walked too much while visiting Sweden. Last surviving phrase. Hjälp! And then we have come to our saying goodbye phrases. Hej då! Hej då Sverige! But if you want to come back to Sweden one day, then you can say vi ses snart igen. What else do you want to know before coming to Sweden? Let us know in the comment section below. Hej då! Vi ses i Sverige!